Welcome to Forthright. I'm Sulani Madsen, bringing you a column and commentary feature, reading a follow-up column on the saga of the Upriver Drive Dog Park and Spokane Park's award-winning planning process that has proved to have a few flaws when it comes to listening to the community. First, the column, published Thursday, June 8, 2023 in the Spokesman Review, and headlined, "Neighborhood Wants to be Heard on Dog Park Site." What we've got here is a failure to communicate. Tuesday night's public meeting with the Spokane Parks Department suffered from cool hand Luke syndrome when a dogged focus on process led the Spokane Parks and Recreation staff to overlook public expectations and emotion. There was a failure to communicate. Spokane Parks Director Garrett Jones had planned a design meeting to vote on design concept variations and discuss desired amenities. Area residents like Melinda Norman were expecting an opportunity to vote on whether to build a dog park on the Upriver Drive site at all. Communication failure has been the theme for the past 2 months, starting when residents adjacent to the park property were blindsided by the development proposal in April. The Minnehaha Neighborhood Council said they were led to believe the affected residents had been consulted when their council originally approved the proposal. The latest communication breakdown started in Norman's driveway on May 24. She texted me the next day saying, "Jones, Bingle, Cathcart, and a couple assistants met with us neighbors yesterday and walked the park." And then went on, "They will put together 3 options for the public to vote on June 6. 1 large park, 1 small park, 1 no park at all." She was hoping for a resounding no vote and texted that "we're crossing our fingers they will listen this time." So, when Jones announced the format of Tuesday's meeting would be a presentation of 3 design concepts for the Upriver Drive site with small group breakout sessions and comment cards, the crowd was restless. They were not in a mood to have a chat about ranking whether benches were more or less important than paved paths. They were looking for a public vote on the site and expected none of the above to be one of the options. It was not. The feedback form asked participants to select a preferred design concept for the Upriver site. It wasn't called a proposed site, but the site. Any other opinions, like the no the neighbors were hoping for, had to be written in the additional input box. Repeated statements from Parks Department staff that all the forms would be scanned as part of the public record didn't address concerns about whether comments would make any difference or just be filed to validate the process. An alternative suggested by the neighborhood wasn't included in the park's presentation. On June 1, the Minnehaha Neighborhood Council had met and adopted a resolution rescinding their support for the Upriver Drive site and suggesting Minnehaha Park instead. The whereas statements scathingly rejected the Parks Department process as having ignored local residents, misled the Neighborhood Council, and overlooked significant problems. It concluded with, "Therefore, be it resolved, the Minnehaha neighborhood agrees the proposed Upriver Dog Park location is neither good for dogs, the environment, traffic, public safety, and/or preservation of wildlife access to water," and demanded the park board direct resources to add features to the Minnehaha Park site instead. Shannon Ben, chair of the Minnehaha Neighborhood Council, said, "We're not NIMBY. We're saying we want it in our backyard in Minnehaha Park." 6 blocks west of the park board's adopted site for a regional dog park, a neighborhood dog park is already part of the master plan for renovating Minnehaha Park, and it could be expanded. The controversial Upriver site is on the border between city and county, affecting residents in both jurisdictions. City Council members Jonathan Bingle and Michael Cathcart attended Tuesday's meeting. About 50 people filled the school cafeteria tables at Cooper Elementary. County Commissioner Amber Waldrop was noticeably absent and did not respond to a request for comment. In their defense, Parks Department staff were focused on carrying out the Park Board resolution, which directed them to consider alternative designs and not alternative sites. They were using a standard public design meeting agenda and a list of 15 amenities to be ranked. But the audience was clearly not going to play along and had their own agenda. They came prepared with photos and presentations of site characteristics incompatible with a dog park. As one longtime Upriver Drive resident pointed out, when the police academy is training with flashbangs, a big dog can easily clear a 6-foot fence. They wanted to vote. It was getting a little heated when Bingle stepped up. "Our ears are open," he said. He started counting heads in the room and proposed a vote. If you hate the idea, raise your hand. 31 hands shot up. Norman asked if she could add the 375 signatures she and her neighbors had collected on petitions against the Upriver site, and Bingle said yes. It was bureaucracy meets democracy. This neighborhood wants to see investment in recreation facilities and amenities, but just not here. As a Minnehaha neighbor said, maybe this isn't the right thing, but maybe we can find something better in the future. The question is, will the park board have their ears open when they meet on Thursday, or will the failure to communicate continue? So about the county commissioner, on June 6th, after the meeting, I followed up with Commissioner Amber Waldrop by email before writing that column on June 7, and I didn't hear back from her until June 12. So here is that exchange. Dear Amber, I attended the meeting held tonight with your constituents to discuss the proposed Upriver Drive Dog Park location. I'll be wrapping up my column on what I observed at the meeting by noon. I would really like to have a conversation instead of just exchange emails, but if email has to do, then the top of mind question is, why didn't you attend or send a representative on your behalf? I'll be up early, available for a call anytime after 7 a.m. So her response on June 12, which is 6 days later, Amy and I were out of the office at meetings and events last Wednesday morning and did not see your email in time to follow up and just decide Amy is her assistant. If you have a quick turnaround for comments, the best way to try and reach me is my county cell phone. She gave me her number. She says, I always do my best to get back to media requests if time and schedule allows. So I appreciate that. The cell phone's always preferable to email, and I will keep that in mind for future. Amber goes on, unfortunately, I had other commitments that prevented me from attending the dog park design meeting. My office has been in touch with several residents in the area, and we have gotten them contact info for Spokane Park Board members who are the ultimate decision makers on how the park property is utilized. I'm connecting with Councilmember Bingle tomorrow to get an update on next steps. So it's good that the county commissioner is going to talk to the city council member, but this has been a hot issue for her constituents for 2 months. The Spokane Park Board has no reason at all that they should listen to the county residents. There's no accountability loop there. It's her jurisdiction, and this is an issue that really requires city-county collaboration because Upriver Drive, the street is in the city. There's parkland owned by both county and city. When you drive up Upriver Drive, you actually drive out of the city into county, back into city. The border complications are pretty significant, and it really deserved a little more focus there, in my opinion. About the meeting at Cooper Elementary, it was really clear this was not going to go smoothly from the beginning. The first thing I saw when I walked in was a table with 3 display boards illustrating all the reasons why the Upriver Drive site is not suitable for a dog park. The audience members were discussing their prepared remarks on all the issues and why they wanted to reject the site proposal or the site. They were discussing who was going to be the bad news bearer and call out the city bluntly for misleading and miscommunication using the word lied. I mean, people felt lied to. They were misled. And then deciding who was going to be the rescuer who's suggesting this third way and advocating for Minnehaha. Nobody was there to talk benches and picnic tables. Spokane Parks had their handouts and everything up front, and as soon as they started the PowerPoint, it was all over. The room was restless. PowerPoint finished, 11 by 17 comment sheets handed out. Here's this big piece of paper. There's lots of room on that paper. And there was no option on there that said, no park here. So people are just staring at this piece of paper. And I'm not a reporter, I'm a columnist. I admit I inserted myself into the story because I was confused. I raised my hand and I asked, do you have the Minnehaha Park plan with you so people could see what the neighborhood council voted for when they rescinded their support for the Upriver Drive site? Because I figured everybody may not have seen the Minnehaha Park plan. The Minnehaha neighborhood had suggested that the 2 to 3 acre dog park that was shown on the Minnehaha renovation plan could be expanded. Minnehaha Park is 39 acres, so carving out 7 acres instead of 3 acres seems pretty doable. The answer from the park staff was no. They did not bring the Minnehaha plan with them. And then the debate got heated. Bless his heart, but the park staffer who kept saying time check and trying to launch the breakout groups to discuss site amenities was just not reading the room. And I had talked with Jonathan Bingle before the meeting about how one of the challenges for any elected representative, and that goes for Amber Waldorf as well, is that while being fully responsible for each issue within their district, there are hundreds and thousands of such issues. And while they are all important, they are all very important to someone for whom it is their only issue, while the elected official has to balance all of them. So Jonathan had been working to get up to speed on this one, and he had been over the last week getting an earful, and he did read the room, and he brought the meeting back to some kind of closure. This room wasn't going anywhere until they got to vote. And I heard from one of the neighbors later that the next day, Bingle had asked staff to pump the brakes because we don't have community support. And that's a good reaction. Nothing is in concrete until it's in concrete, and at the concept stage is where you want to pause and make sure you got it right. So the good news from today is the brakes have been pumped, and there is work underway to address what the neighbors in the neighborhood have been telling park board and staff. Jonathan called he was going to be a guest on a podcast interview today. Called to ask if we could push that back because in about a week and a half he's expecting to have some recommendations for a way forward, and he'd love to be able to talk about those then. So that is great. In 2 weeks I'll have him on this podcast, and we'll when that conversation is ready for a debut, and I hope that you will join me then. So thanks for joining me on this edition of Forthright. Be sure to like and subscribe for notifications of new content. If you really like the work, pledges are appreciated. It helps justify the time commitment to make this a platform for the community voices that don't always make the newspaper. And subscribe to your local newspaper, because we really are blessed in this area to have local weeklies, 2 local weeklies in Lincoln County, and a local daily in Spokane. Actually, there's other locals in Cheney and in Spokane Valley, Whitman County. We have papers that are owned locally, not by some out of town, out of state, out of country conglomerate. So appreciate those. Subscribe to your local newspapers. Subscribe to Forthright, and I will look forward to bringing you new stories that need to come to light.